Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Rory Reid from RoryReidArt.com, and today I got a special video for you guys. Just going to basically give a rundown of what occurred with this particular piece that I'm working on currently. This was an older piece that I created back in the day. Wasn't unhappy with it, but wasn't overly impressed by it, and so about a year later, I revisited the piece to sort of revamp it, redesign the lighting scheme, and just turn it into something more magnificent. So it's a, okay piece that I'm going to revamp now and work on turning it into a masterpiece. So the first thing I did with this piece was it had a lighter background before, so I went over with my signature color, the turquoise blue green, in a very dark value, and just tried to implement the overall atmosphere that I wanted for the piece. And the second thing I decided to do from there was to now implement some more classic shadows in the face, sort of like the your classic Rembrandt lighting style. So as you can see now, I'm taking some darker tones of my skin color and implementing those on the left hand side of the piece, paying close attention to how it interplays with the value of the background. And just by implementing that quick step alone, you can see the painting already looks more dynamic. Previously, it was more evenly lit on the face overall, and it sort of gave a flat appearance. Not much to look at. And if you've watched the channel before, you've heard me say that a million times, that your paintings sort of need a range of every element of the painting needs to be on some sort of a spectrum to add a bit of dynamic feel to it. So in this case, I'm using the portrait. On the left side, it's going to be in shadow. The right side is going to be more pronounced. So that's like a spectrum from dark to light, like a high contrast kind of feel. Of course, not going too far with it, but giving a range in that aspect itself. Same thing with the background, and same thing with the detailing. Of course, the side that's in shadow, the left side of the face here, not going to render out too much, or not. I'm not going to render it out as much as the right hand side, just to give another spectrum or range that will add to the dynamicism of the piece itself. So this is sort of run-of-the-mill, along the same lines of what I do with my portraiture. If you've even watched the tutorial that I have on the channel, to all the other commission pieces and things like that I've posted on social media before and the like. So we're just bringing this older piece up to speed with our current level of skill and the current style that we work in now. And so in this short time, just by adding the shadows alone, not doing too much detail in the lighter values, painting already looks 10 times better, in my opinion. You can see the planes of the face more clearly. They're more properly defined. And with the luminous eyes, it's gives a great effect. You've heard me mention that before as well. Sort of an unnatural look, but I like my pieces to have a bit of mysticism, a bit of wow factor. So this adds some slightly unnatural lighting in the eyes, adds that for me personally. Normally you want to have the eye that's in shadow a bit more in tune with the values on that side, and maybe add some a little highlighted area here or there depending on where the light lands. But me, I like it this way for now. You know, who knows, in a couple years I might switch out of this style and just go more natural. Might even do something crazier than this, who knows. But again, that's the beauty of being an artist. You get to make the decisions, and you know, people will gravitate to it or not. It's not for you to worry about. Just make what you like, and you know, somebody out there will hop on the train, if you know what I mean. So working now in a bit of the mid-tone areas as well. As you can see, everything is not so punchy now. We're sort of blending our shadows and our midtones more seamlessly into the lighter values, and that's given a nice smoothing effect, which we will break up a bit later on in the piece to add a little bit of flair, as I said before. And so essentially what we're doing in this portion is sort of just evening out all the values, basically making like a gradient, as opposed to a more high contrast feel. So the shadows go smoothly into the midtones go smoothly into the highlights. Just doing some minor detailing on the lips now. And all this is just playing with the values, right? I'm not, haven't changed anything structurally as far as the planes of the face go. Everything is still where it was, more or less. And I'm just adding a sort of lighting scheme or a value spectrum to the painting. And I'm getting this magnificent effect by doing so. So it shows you the importance of choosing a reference photo or choosing a subject that is properly lit. Just the lighting alone can take the painting from a 2 to a 10. And thinking back now that I just said that, the original reference photo that I used for this piece was more was more lit or illuminated overall. It was a much more even lighting. So maybe the subject was outside in the sun, you know, facing the sun or something like that, so that there wasn't too many cast shadows or anything like that. So you see the effect that sort of reference garnered. So using that same photo, I just added now a shadow scheme, and voila. And if you've worked in shadows before, especially with this brown color, it can get tricky. So you do have to pay attention to what you're doing, because a lot of the times, especially if you're working under a studio light, a lot of the times your different values in the shadow areas will sort of look the same. And then also working with acrylic paint, you might not be able to distinguish what is where until after it dries. So you may put one of your darkest darks down, and then you want to use a lighter value to indicate a different plane. But while you're painting it, they both look the same. So you sort of have to trust your brain in that instance, as opposed to trusting your eyes. You got to, know what you're trying to execute and how to execute it. And then once everything settles and dries a bit, then what you did will come to light and look, as it should. A lot of the times newer artists, when working with acrylic, they get confused in that stage, and everything looks muddy, and then they get frustrated and head down the road to disaster with the painting. But that's where experience and knowledge of the medium that you're using comes in. And so now you see the face has a lot more defined structure. The different values that we added, they make the forms more pronounced. Looking much better, The shadow side is a little bit too dark, but it's still earlier in the revamp, so we attempt to rectify that as time goes on. And so there's nothing really wrong with revisiting an older piece, especially if it's one that you're not happy with and maybe didn't sell it at the time. Nothing wrong with jumping back in and bringing that piece up to par with where your skill as an artist is currently. That's basically what this is. When I made this, maybe my choice of reference wasn't the greatest. My skill in portraiture itself maybe wasn't the greatest, even though it was certainly passable and certainly could have sold it. It's where I am now is far beyond then, as any artist will attest to. You get better over time as the years go by, and so jumping back into an old piece is always a good feeling, because a lot of times when you begin as well, your vision for what you want, you're not always able to execute that based on your current skills. So when you hop back in years later or years down the road and you are able to execute it, it's like overcoming a hurdle that propels you forward in your artistic journey. It's a great feeling. So I would advise any of you out there who have pieces that you envisioned that you really couldn't bring to life at the time, put it aside and just keep working on something else. Keep improving your skills, your composition, your reference choices, your lighting choices, your command of the medium, technique, brushwork, all that kind of stuff, and then jump back into the painting a couple of years down the road, a year down the road, and you'll be surprised. And in case you're wondering why I'm going back and forth here, I'm just doing a voiceover of this video you're watching. This painting I did live stream on Twitch, so I'm just going back and forth to my mic that I have to the side there, talking to the chat. So I'm not, and my computer is there as well with the reference. So that's basically what I was doing, just in case you were wondering. And yeah, follow me on Twitch if you're on that platform as well. My name on there is at Tripler999. We'll have that linked down in the description. And when I stream, I don't stream there all the time, but whenever I have a painting, any painting that I do that I am able to show the public ahead of time, I do stream it full length over there. So follow me on there if you want to see the processes of these paintings from start to finish. that I post on this YouTube channel. Looking into doing some live streams on YouTube as well in the coming future. We are approaching our 1,000 subscriber mark. Really excited about that. A lot of years of hard work, man, pumping out the vids and the shorts as well, the YouTube shorts. Been getting a good response from those, so kept doing them. And so we're close to the 1,000 mark milestone. Once we get that, I will probably look into start doing some live streams. And you know, just because we're gonna need a lot of engagement and watch time on the channel, because my goal is to get the channel monetized and self-sustained as well. And so now getting back into the piece, I've added some mild highlights here and there, as you can see on the lip, the nose, underneath the right eye as well. Sort of just expanding the value spectrum. Those are currently the lightest highlights on the piece. So I'm just stretching the value range out, pulling it out gradually, if you will. Also, what I've done that you might not necessarily be able to pick up on the video itself is I did introduce some subtle colors into the skin tone as well. Around the cheek area, you can see sort of an alizarin crimson wash, very subtly done. Underneath the highlighted areas in the eyes, and a little bit on the nose as well, I did introduce some greens also. So there's a interplay between some reds and greens, contrasting colors on the face itself, on top of the brown color. So in person you'd be able to pick that up, but I'm not sure how well it's translating on the video through the camera lens itself. And so from this point on, all we're doing is detailing now. You see I've got the liner brush out. We're dropping in subtle highlights here and there, sharpening edges on some of the focal points, such as the eyes and the lips and the nose. And we do that with a liner brush, more or less. Making sure to leave some of the areas that are in shadow a bit more unrendered. As I've stated a million times on the channel, just my style. So in addition as well, we are putting in some yellow, sort of like a lemon yellow highlights, abstractions across the piece. Did want to use this yellow against the turquoise blue background. Thought it made for an interesting team, if you will. We did want to make sure to indicate that our light source was coming from the top right down, as you can see from the lighting on the face, as well as the lighting on the hair, forehead, etc. Doing a bit of work now on the jewelry for our young lady here now. Some big hoop earrings and just a chain. Thought these accessories, the main reason I added them, of course, was just to drop some hints of light down into those darker areas of the piece to add a bit more variety down there as well. And so for this latter portion of the painting, as we get closer to the end, it's mostly just detail work with the smaller brushes. When I began, of course, as I say all the time, you use the bigger brushes and you block all your values in. So I use the bigger flat brush to drop in all my shadows, all my midtones, and then as the painting goes along, you tighten things up as far as your brush size goes until you get all the way down to a liner brushes, which is basically just a point, and you can add in your micro details with this brush, and that'll be the icing on the cake for any underlying brushwork that you've laid down before with your bigger brushes. That's sort of like how you sculpt a piece in paint. Use bigger tools to get the foundation work done, and then you refine your tools smaller and smaller as you chisel away on the piece. That's sort of how I think about it, at least. Using some lighter values now on our jewelry. For those of you who can't see, that is the tetragrammaton that I'm painting in. Any of you familiar with the Bible will know where that came from and who that is. Decided, if you notice what I did there, I decided to lower down the value a bit on the left hand side that was in shadow. I think I did it just to test it out for now. I did bring it up back a little bit more towards the end of the piece, just because, as I said, the original intent of adding in the jewelry was to sort of interrupt the dead space or the shadow space on the lower left portion of the piece there. And so you always want to, step back and scan your piece, especially if you're working big, and see what portions of the painting are interesting that you can expand on, and also you need to pay attention to what portions of your painting are not so interesting, and see if you can add a little bit of interest in those areas, just to give the eyes of the viewer something to appreciate, in the different stages or the different portions of your piece. You want to step back and make sure everything works from overall visual perspective. So I would say the top left, the top right, the center, the bottom middle or the bottom center, and the bottom right are all nicely balanced. And the bottom left is so far not as balanced as I would like. You know, it's sort of just a dark space, even though in person you can see the portions of the torso there as well as the earring, but do want to bring it up a little bit, as I said, as you see me doing now, and that just that subtle change sort of adds a location of interest, or adds some interest into that location is what I should say. Again, just going a bit lighter on our highlight color and just outlining anything that needs to be outlined, such as the lips, any highlights we're going to put on the bulb of the nose or the bridge of the nose as well, on the eyelids, on the earrings, using now an even lighter value, more in tune with the background color now, to go on top of that lemon yellow we had for the hair, and just drop in a few abstract waves, sort of like a mist or glow to the tips of the hair. As I said before, I love having a aura of mysticism to my portraits. And by now you can't even tell that this is the same painting that we began with. We're now in a whole different arena. And so I would say it's well worth it, or was well worth it, for me to revisit this piece, because now this looks much more complete, much more interesting. You know, somebody would be proud to have this on their wall. And rightfully so. This is, I want to say, probably 60, 70 hours worth of work from beginning to end. Not this revamped portion, but you know, from working with the painting from its original inception. So yeah, probably a good 60 to 70 hours. Even more highlights going in now, and as you can see, as we include more highlighted layers over and over and over, everything just looks more realistic. But again, that's realism is not really the goal for me, even though a certain level of realism is what I prefer. Photorealism, not so much, but I do need my paintings to have a certain level of rendering that can, you know, capture the viewer, just to indicate that yes, this person or this artist knows what he's doing a little bit. You know, I appreciate paintings that show that extra effort. Everything doesn't have to be rendered out fully to a photorealistic stage, but something needs to, you know, in this case, my focal point, which is the figure itself, even more specifically, the right-hand side of the portrait is well rendered, and works nicely. Here I was playing around with the eyebrows a bit, the eyelashes a bit, seeing if I wanted the more full eyebrows. I felt like it was a distraction after I edited it, so I removed it quickly and just decided to add in my signature abstract strokes across the portrait and when you see that happening, you know that we are getting close to the end here. And so this was our final piece. It's titled Daughter of Sarai Part 2. And hope you guys really enjoyed this one. I know I did. Stunning piece, beautiful work, and that's that. Be sure to check out my Teespring store, guys. It's teespring.com/store/RoryReidArt. Also, follow this channel, like and subscribe. Hit the notification bell as well. And follow me on all social media. I'm on Instagram, Twitch, and TikTok under Tripler999. Hope to see you guys over there. Other than that, man, I hope you guys have a blessed day, a blessed week, a blessed year. Thank you so much for all the support. Road to 1,000 continues. See you guys next time. Take it easy. Peace.